Did you have, was there any one person, you mentioned your parents, but while you were going through the troubles of prison and things like that, was there any one person that was like a mentor to you that you kind of said, geez, maybe I can do that? Was there a person involved in your life that helped you? Or was it just on your own discipline, as you said?
So, you know, the most important person in my life is my father and my mother as well. So, but they were always staunch examples to me. I didn't go the way that they had intended for me to go, you know? So I would say it's always my father. And my father was always, the best thing about my father, and I'm glad you, and it's a great question, and I'm glad you keyed in on that, because my father always said to me, whatever's done is done, kid. Now you just gotta move forward. And I know that there was other people that used to come and visit my friends, like their fathers, and they'd be like, I can't believe you got yourself into trouble, what did you do? You know, harping on things, you know. There's nothing you can do about the past. I have a dear friend of mine that engaged in a business venture that's not going particularly well. And I just try to tell him that the best you can do is move forward with it. You can't go back in the past and undo that. So what can we do today to try to improve the situation? And listen, what we all know this. You've all had your struggles and bad experiences in life. Mine is my own. And they're comparable to everybody's, even though you didn't do prison time. You don't have to do prison time to have troubles. Everybody has troubles. So the only thing I think we can do is move forward from that. And I think for me, the one person was always my father. Good. And it's a good question, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
There was a big study that I read about a long time ago, and it was a pyramid of what things are most important to grow older and be well and blah, blah, blah. And at the very top, you would think, oh, it's what you eat, or it's your attitude. At the very top, it was your social relationships. The most important thing that keeps people healthy. In the list of things, number one is, like you said, your relationships. And then, of course, is, you know, how you eat.
It's a good point, and if I could expound on it, I think they say that married people live the longest, right? So I think that epitomizes relationships. Not that I'm married or, you know, in a relationship or not, but I think that lends credence to, I think building relationships brings wealth. And not just financial wealth, because financial wealth, you know, I always tell people that when the bad news comes, and they say like, hey, Mr. Bartolomeo, the doctor says, hey, I have some really bad news for you. You start going like this, right? Then you're like, every problem you thought you had, you're like, what were the problems? I don't even remember them. Now this is the real problem. Excuse me. But, so I think that, you know, enjoy it. Enjoy today. Sir.
So, because you recently out of prison, so has it been that much different from the outside? Is it like a whole new world for you? Are you acclimated? Or
It's a fantastic question, and it's everybody always says to me, "You're going to be so shell shocked." I'm shell shocked with prison. Once I walked out the door, I forgot I was even there. So, and I'm a very, you know, extroverted person anyway, you know, so I don't really have trouble in relationships. And the way that I liken it to people is I'm around a whole bunch of people I didn't want to be around. You know, you meet some decent fellows,
yeah,
but now I can be around the people I want to be around. So, and I think a lot of things have changed dramatically, but I think it's perspective again. I think people have told me how much things have changed that when I actually walked out, still the same. So some things got a facelift, you know. I lost my hair. I don't know what the trick is here. I'm joining the Rotary. Everybody got their hair. So to touch a little bit on that is things have changed, you know. But like I said, I don't want to be bitter about things. I feel blessed to have every opportunity, every obstacle, everything that is coming forward in my life. I just look at it as it's just a pleasure to have it. So, but it's a good question. Jay.
So I was just, you know, part of the reason is like your discipline, like you worked out 3 times a day, you did yoga every day in prison, but also that you taught a couple hundred people Spanish too, you
Yes.
your own curriculum and that. So I wanted you to talk more about that, the Spanish, teaching the Spanish. I thought it was great.
So, I remember when I was in, I believe it was Devon's, I was getting my hip done, I had a hip replacement that you paid for, thank you. I'm doing real good with it, that was about 7 years ago. So, there was this kid that I was friendly with, that I was talking to him, and he turned around and talked to a Mexican guy that was our friend, and he said in Spanish, fluent Spanish, "Hey, get me that bowl, we're gonna start cooking." And I went, and to me it was one of those defining moments in my life. It was the most powerful thing I've ever seen and heard in my whole life, because here's a person talking just like this with us in English, and then turned around to talk to somebody in a completely foreign language, and I just found it powerful. And I said to myself, it was one of those moments that I had where I said, and this exact conversation I had with myself was, John, you started a lot of things. You've finished few. Can this be something that you can do? Make a commitment to yourself before you tell somebody to buy you a book, to do this, to do that. I made a commitment to myself to study for 1 year. So I studied for about 12 hours a day for 1 year. And the 12 hours was reading, writing, listening to people speak, watching novellas. I had a lot of time. People ask me, "Hey, I want to learn Spanish." Impossible. You got this thing in your hand now? You see that thing you got in your hand? Like, it's amazing that we don't have them in our hands right this second, right? And I hopefully that lends a little credence to my message. But we're on the phones all the time. We could learn on the phones, but there's so many things going on. It's such a sensory overload in today's society that we work, and then when we work, we're trying to do something else after work to maybe make a few more extra dollars. I do it with the clothing. I come from work, I'm on the train. I said, I hope the knot station don't come quick because I'm trying to bang this out. And so it's the time thing, but I had a lot of time and I dedicated myself. I was passionate about it because I found it to be so intriguing. I wanted to learn, and I learned, and I started to devise curriculums for people like me, like us, that would learn a language where you can't learn a language like that by talking to somebody. It's hard. You have to read it, you have to write it, and I knew all the pitfalls because I had them. You're just like me. You're just like me. If you wanted to learn it, I could show you, because I know this is going to be tough for you. It was tough for me. We're not native speakers. We never heard it in our houses. Or if we did, the majority of us have.
Do you speak Italian?
I don't speak not one word of Italian. The funny thing, because Spanish is accessible, right? You can get any TV station, any radio station. You can ask the guy next to you, "Hey, how do you say this in Spanish?" Very hard to do in Italian. My last name is Bartolomeo. I'm Italian. It would seem the logical step for me to learn Italian, but it just wasn't accessible. So that's the reason why. But so yeah, I did teach a curriculum. I graduated a couple hundred students in they're called adult continuing education courses, because I knew what education did for me. Education empowered me. So as community leaders, anytime you could give somebody the opportunity to learn something, it's empowering. It made me feel great. It made me realize how stupid I was at first, and even now, they say, "Oh, you speak Spanish? What about the guy that speaks French, English, Italian?" That's amazing to me, right? So as smart as, and I don't think I'm smart at all, believe me. I believe that I'm just walking through this life. I wanted everybody to know who I was when I was a kid. I did crazy things in the middle of the street because I wanted you to know who I was. Now, I want to put my hood up and be anonymous. It's a complete turnaround. But thank you, and great question. Anybody else? Sure.
Yeah, number one, thank you for coming and speaking and being so vulnerable. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that you understand, fostering relationship and everyday working towards being successful. In my personal life, I have I'm probably the only one in my male family that hasn't been to prison. And I've learned a lot more from people that have been through term. So my question to you is, I also coach the Brockton High Wrestling team.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I also coach the Brockton High Wrestling team. So what
Brockton
would you
Rotary
say to your,
The football coach, Jermaine Wiggins, you know?
of course,
Yes.
Dear friend of mine.
real, oh yeah.
One of my,
from
if you
East
listen to the
Boston.
radio, if you listen to the radio show this morning,
Well, I
he
see, I don't
mentions my
listen to
name
him, but-
quite a bit.
All right, yeah. So, yeah, I see him all the time. He did a great job. But what would you go back and tell yourself as a high schooler?
Wow.
And,
That's a phenomenal question.
That's
A
a great
really, really thought-provoking question. And my short answer to that, as you know, as I reflect on it by telling you my first answer, is you couldn't tell me anything. I don't think so. I used to tell the officers who I became. Listen, I had a great rapport with all the officers. Every officer, as I started to accumulate time in prison, they were all like, "Hey, you're Bartolomeo," you know. Like I remember a warden that was an officer. He walked in. He was going to the officer, and he went. He didn't even say hello to the officer. He went, "Hey, Bartolomeo, what's up?" Because I had fostered relationships with them as well. Not through cooperation. I don't cooperate. I don't testify against my friends. I never did. I don't give information to any law enforcement. Let's clear that up. About anything. I just don't. If you told me a secret in confidence, I wouldn't tell Mary or Bobby. I wouldn't tell it. It's just the type of person I am. I don't do that. So, but what I would say, in hindsight, is I used to tell them, they used to have their feet up on the desk. And I would be like, I'd go in there, I'd walk by, I said, "Hey boss, you know what? I'm the stupid guy. I thought you needed a pistol to rob money when I was a kid. I didn't know you could do this." He goes, "Listen, you could, this is," you know what I mean? So, I guess you really couldn't tell me anything because I was the kid that wanted to show you. Because, and I will say this, and I will preface that with this, that it came from probably a lot of insecurity within myself. Not knowing who I am. I mean, adolescence is a tough time. Now we see, you know, the adolescence is a whole different thing now, but it's another story for another day. But, so I guess maybe insecurity wanted, you know, gave the opposite effect that I'm an insecure guy and I'm insecure about myself, but I'm going to show you why I think you shouldn't think I'm insecure. So I guess that there was nothing you could say to me, but if I could counsel myself, I would just say that, learn. Why couldn't you learn Spanish when you were a kid? Learn. You could be an interpreter. Learn. Invest. Make money. You know, and money's not everything, but money is something that obviously we need. And why not be successful? Why not be successful and help people along the way? So my thing was learn. I would tell myself, John, just learn. Go to school. Because as I got older, I loved school. But it was, you know, it was the Benjamin Button effect for school. I hated school when I was a kid and I had to be there. And you know what my mother and father told me? That's okay you hate school, John. There's no way around it. You got to go through it. So that's it. Now what? Buckle down. You know, best parents on the planet. I couldn't ask for better parents. You know what I mean? But, you know, like my father says, when you get older, you make your own decisions, kid. But it's a great question, and I would say learn. Learn. That's a power.
well, I think you also, when you exhibit the behaviors of being successful, repetition is huge with sports. So I mean, I'll take that as well. So again, I appreciate you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions? My life's an open book. You can ask me anything.
Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you.